Welcome to Book Banter with me, your host, Dianne Burkhart. I hope you will join me every Wednesday as we explore all things to do with, well, books. Let's get on with our show today. Hello, my happy people. Today is November 27th, 2024, and I am so tired. I was up late last night getting our next issue of Book Banter magazine ready to go, and it is available now. I just want to let you know that this is a very special double issue. I decided this year I was going to combine our holiday book buying guide along with our regular December-January issue of Book Banter magazine, and I kept the price at just $2.99. So you get both big issues covering everything that's going to be happening through December and all of our hiatus episodes that are coming up through the middle of December to January. Not to mention all of the information that we gathered from the Frankfurter Book Messe and those people that you will be hearing during our hiatus episodes, plus all of the authors who appeared throughout the entire season 3 on Book Banter with Dianne Burkhart. And many of the people who have done interviews with us have also released new work since we spoke with them, and I found as many of those as I possibly could and added it to our holiday book buying guide. So you can not only find the books that we talked about in their interview, but things that they have brought to market since then. And we have got some fantastic books for you to find. So if you have people on your holiday shopping list that you want to buy some books for, or you're just looking to build onto your own to-be-read list, this is the magazine for you. It has live buy links for every single book listed in this magazine. It has social media links to all of the authors' social media sites that we could find so that you can follow the people that you're really interested in what they're going to be doing next. Now, the author that we're going to be speaking to today, we talked to her back in the summer, and at that time, she did not know when her next book was going to be coming out. But good news is she's already got that scheduled, and it is available for pre-order right now. So if you look in the description of today's podcast, you will not only find information about the book that we're going to be discussing in this interview, but also about the sequel that's coming up to fill out the duology that we're talking about. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right to today's interview. Please welcome to Book Banter with Dianne Burkhart, Amber Chen. I always like to start the show the same way by asking our guests to please tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Right. Hi, everyone. Hi, Dianne. I am Amber Chen. I am a YA author from Singapore. And my debut YA thought fantasy of Jade and Dragons was just released in June this year. So I'm very excited to be here to talk to you about the book.
Now, I think you're a little bit unique in the field of people that I've been interviewing a lot lately, because from your college degree choices, I would think that you actually had being a writer in mind from the start.
Did you think so? Yeah, so I think it's a bit odd. I think most people find it a bit strange because I studied biochemistry. I am a scientist by training, actually.
Yes, but you also have a degree in screenwriting.
I've always liked storytelling and I've liked reading. So that's something that I've always been doing while growing up. But I don't think I actually thought of writing my own work until I was in university. And when I did that, my first thought was actually to write for screen. So I've always been very keen to be a screenwriter and to tell stories that will eventually be on TV or on a movie screen. And after I graduated with my science degree, I went on to do a diploma in screenwriting. But unfortunately, the film and TV industry in this part of the world is not that big. So making screenwriting a career wasn't something that was actually viable for me. But I still really wanted to tell stories. And that's when I kind of pivoted into writing novels instead. And so here we are with my first novel being out.
Well, now you actually have had something produced for television, I guess. It'd be streaming service, I would think. Your work that you did on Wattpad, The Cutting Edge.
Yes. So when I first started writing, I was writing web novels on Wattpad. So it was quite fortunate actually that the Wattpad team scouted that particular story, The Cutting Edge, and then said that they were keen to pitch it to some of their TV partners. A local TV broadcaster was actually interested in the story, and they bought the AV rights to turn that particular story into a small screen adaptation. Yeah, so I kind of like skip steps there. I mean, most people actually publish the book first and then get the film rights sold for a book, but I have the TV adaptation before I actually sold a book, which is quite lucky, I think.
That is amazing. Definitely somebody was looking out for you for that one because that is so hard to do.
Yeah, it really came out of nowhere. I was completely not expecting it. But I guess that was the first time that I actually thought that maybe my work did have some commercial potential. And that's when I started seriously considering traditional publishing as a potential route.
Now, did you get to work at all on the screenplay for that?
I had a kind of a consultant role in that. So they had the production house come up with the screenplay, and then I got to review all the screenplays and then give my feedback on what I thought and any ideas. So that was all quite interesting. It was kind of like the first look that I had into this book to screen adaptation process.
Mm-hmm. So is there any hope of Jade and Dragons being adapted for screen?
I would love for that to happen, although I'm cautiously optimistic. I do know that of Jade and Dragons, well, The Cutting Edge, which was my web novel that was adapted, was a contemporary story
Mm-hmm.
of Jade and Dragons being sort of high fantasy is definitely probably a lot harder to get adapted. Firstly, the budget would be significantly bigger. And I'm not sure any production company would be willing to put in that much budget into creating this entire fantasy world.
If anybody would ever be interested in doing that, though, the visuals that they could come up with from your book would be amazing. I think there's a lot of fantasy fans out there that would love it.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a dream to see of Jade and Dragons on screen one day. So, I mean, the film rights are still available if anyone wants to buy them.
Have you ever thought about just adapting it in a screenplay yourself and trying to shop that?
I have not thought about that. I might one day, but I do have lots of projects coming up, so we'll see how time works out.
I know besides The Cutting Edge, you also had something published in Wilted Pages, an anthology of dark academia. How did you get involved in that?
There was an open call that was made by the editors. One of the editors was someone whose stories that I really admire. That's Aijiang. And so I thought I might just give it a shot. So that I am typically not so much of a short fic writer. So that was one of the few short fiction stories that I wrote. I thought that it might be interesting to kind of explore dark academia from a non-Western perspective. So my short story in that anthology, which is titled Hugging the Buddha's Feet, is inspired by the imperial examinations that took place during the Song dynasty of China. So that's what happened. Submitted it for the open call, and I was very fortunate to have it selected. And so that was my first ever short story publication.
You know, I'm always really kind of interested in finding that there's so many people have a hard time writing short.
Yeah, I do think that short fiction is a whole different ball game from
Mm-hmm.
writing a full-length novel. It requires a different skill set, I would say.
It's very hard for people to get like their clarity, their character development, and build their world in a short piece. And when somebody can do that, that is really amazing.
Yeah, so I enjoy reading short fiction, but I I do try to dabble in it sometimes. I don't think that I am an expert in short fiction in any way. I still find it a lot more comfortable writing long form. Short fiction is challenging, as you mentioned, because you do need to be able to tell a full story in so few words and to be able to fully flesh out your characters, your plot. And I think that requires so much skill. And some people have the talent for doing that, and they have the ability to tell many things in very few words.
Mhm.
I am still working on that. Uh, I don't know if I will write any more short fiction in the near future. I might in between projects. So we'll see.
Now, considering The Cutting Edge was such a contemporary story, how did you switch from that to the world of Jade and Dragons?
I do write across quite a number of genres. So even when I was writing my web novels, I did contemporary, I did fantasy, horror, science fiction. I I am not like a specialist in that sense when it comes to writing. Although now that I am in traditional publishing and I've started out with fantasy, I think I might do a couple of books in fantasy, hopefully to kind of build up that author brand for a start. Although stories kind of pop into my head every now and then, and it can be any sort of genre. So
Mhm.
uh it isn't something that I find particularly difficult to do when it comes to pivoting between genres, probably because I am also a very big reader across different genres. And in
Mhm.
terms of other types of media that I consume, whether it's TV shows or film, I do enjoy content across a wide variety of genres. So that
That's
is
one
something
thing
that
that I
has helped.
hear from a lot of authors that they love to write all of these different genres, but it's so hard to find your market when you're jumping from, horror to romance. When you need to get like that good following to be able to sell the books. And that's hard to do whenever you're moving from all these different genres. And that's so hard for so many authors because they love switching it up.
Yes, it definitely is when you have to start thinking about writing being a business and
Hmm.
needing to sell books. So it was definitely a lot easier when I was just like writing for fun and like writing for free online and I could just do whatever I want. But now that book sales has become a part of it, and it is true that you do have to build up some sort of a following before publishers will be willing to let you experiment in other
Hmm.
areas sometimes. That's unfortunately a reality of publishing that we have to grapple with, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's one reason why a lot of people do dabble in self-publishing as well. That way they can have their regular market with their traditional publisher, but then they can play with other things that they just want to experiment with in self-publishing.
Yeah, that's a good way of doing it.
Now, what was your inspiration for Of Jade and Dragons?
The idea for Jade and Dragons came from history. So I really like reading up on history, and one of my hobbies is speculating about the lives of historical figures and kind of filling in the gaps in historical records. So that's what happened with Of Jade and Dragons. So Jade and Dragons was actually inspired by the story of the first emperor of the Qing dynasty in China and the woman that folklore tells us that he supposedly loved the most. Her name was Hajong. So there are plenty of Easter eggs in the book that draw from real historical events during this transitional period between the late Ming Dynasty and the early Qing Dynasty of China. Of Jade and Dragons was also inspired by one of my favorite classic Chinese tales. It's called The Butterfly Lovers, and it's actually a tragedy, a bit like Romeo and Juliet.
Mm-hmm.
And in that story, the main character, Zhu Yingtai, she dresses up as a boy in order to study at a boys-only academy because boys were the only ones allowed to receive education at that time. And she managed to do all that because she had a really supportive father who was willing to support that dream. And I really liked that father-daughter kind of dynamic, and that is something that inspired Ying's relationship with her father in Of Jade and Dragons.
One of the things I actually love from your website is you have your query letter on there from a Jade and Dragons, and you actually explain how to write a good query letter.
Yeah,
what was it that made you decide to share that?
So before I got published, I was actually contributing to this blog that is run by one of my author friends, Lucia. It's called Path to Pub, so Path to Publishing. And when she first started that blog and invited me to be part of the team, the entire idea was to be able to provide resources to aspiring authors who were trying to get published, because sometimes it's just really hard to find a lot of information about publishing in one place, especially for people who are new to the writing community. So that was the idea behind that blog. And she gathered a couple of us, authors at different stages in the publishing process, to contribute posts that kind of shed light on different sections of the pathway and to share our experiences. So one of the things that she asked if I could do was to share the query letter, because that is something that is so important to authors who are trying to find an agent, and then later on, even if you're agented, to try to pitch to publishers, right? This query. So I thought, yeah, why not? I'm happy to be able to share, and hopefully it helps someone, although I do know that from book to book, there is so much difference in context, but it always helps to have more references. So I personally have benefited from authors who have shared their query letters, who have shared their experiences with the entire publishing process. And now that I am published myself, I just hope to find different ways to be able to give back to the community.
Well, one of the things that's really great about this too is it's such a fantastic example of how to quickly describe your book. Because I have noticed that a lot of people who are not used to having interviews about their work, you can ask them, please tell me about your book. And they will practically tell you the entire first chapter of the book because they don't know how to tell you a succinct description of the story. And being able to see this in your query letter is a great example for people who are trying to figure out how to do that for their own work.
Yeah, I do think that trying to describe your book in an elevator pitch in very few words is not the easiest. I would say, I mean, I spent a lot of time on that query letter trying to kind of distill it down to the main plot points, to try to get the hook in there and to try to outline the stakes as clearly as possible. And that is not always the easiest thing to do. I know a lot of fellow authors do spend a lot of time trying to workshop that query letter. And it is a very different skill set from actually writing the book itself. So,
well, it's marketing.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, now as authors, we just have to learn how to do all these different things. It's hard.
That's the thing that it seems like almost every author, whenever I ask them, what is your favorite thing about being an author? It's the writing. What is the thing that you wish you never had to do? Marketing. That is like the bane of everyone's existence.
I know. Everyone just wishes they could just hide somewhere and write books. unfortunately, there's so much else that comes with it nowadays. And with social media and all, social media marketing has become so important. And a lot of that ends up falling on the authors as well to do that. So,
Yeah. And that's one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize how much you, as an author, have to do even when you are traditionally published.
yeah. So that is a lot of things. Well, that is something that I think people don't see how much other work goes into traditional publishing or just
Mhm.
publishing a book. And I think it's also like a new generation thing with tech and with social media that you're not just marketing a book anymore. Sometimes publishers are also trying to market authors as people, as brands, and that adds in a whole different dimension to publishing.
Mhm. So now this is a perfect time for you to tell us all about your book.
Sure. Oh, Jade and Dragons is a YA soappunk fantasy about a girl whose father is murdered, and so she goes on a hunt to find the murderer to seek justice for his death. This journey then takes her to the prestigious Engineers Guild, and in order to infiltrate the guild to search for clues, she has to disguise herself as her brother to participate in the guild's apprenticeship trials. But the more she finds out, the more she begins to question whether or not revenge is the right thing to do, if it means going against what her father stood for and what he taught her. So that is what the book is about, in short. It is adventure, it is a bit of a mystery, and there is a subplot of romance. So if that's what interests you, then you might consider picking it up.
Well, and one thing that was really struck me as I was reading your book is you have such fantastic visuals in this. The way that you describe the landscape, the home, the clothing, it's just really easy to visualize and fall into your world. It's really well written.
Oh, thank you so much. I think that my training in screenwriting did help with that a bit. I would
Oh,
say
yeah.
because when you write for screen, you do have to be able to convey setting in as concise a manner as possible so that the production team, the director can have an idea of what this world is like so that they can make it a reality. So that is something that I think has really helped me in transitioning to novel writing and in writing of Jane and Dragons.
I think your screenwriting definitely comes through in the way that you lay out your story. It's very easy to visualize.
Yes, it definitely helps. So I think that it is a habit that when I write, I kind of need to be able to see the scenes in my head.
Hmm.
I am very much a visual kind of person. And I do realize that many readers who have read some of my past work, they also say that it sometimes reads like a TV drama. And I think that comes down to what originally motivated me to start telling stories and this entire dream about wanting to write for screen. So when I write even my novels, I kind of have it visualized in my head as how it would look if it had been filmed.
Hmm.
And so I think that kind of contributes to things like pacing as well as descriptions. It may or may not be the best thing. I know that some readers who are more used to reading books might find it a bit brief in terms of world building, but readers who kind of switch between screen, books, and consume kind of like lots of multimedia might find this a bit more comfortable and might find it easier to visualize the kind of story that I'm trying to tell.
I think anybody who just likes a well-written story will enjoy this.
Thank you.
So now seems like a good time to do our 5 quick questions that never turn out to be quick, but we will always keep doing it no matter what. Are you ready?
All right.
So question 1, what is your favorite memory from college?
My favorite memory from college would be rowing, I would say.
Oh, wow.
Oh, this is quite random, but in college, I used to be a cox for my college rowing team.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be 6 a.m. mornings
Oh,
on the
man.
cold river because we have to train before lectures start, and lectures start at 7:30. So we train at 6. And it was fun because I was the cox for a boys rowing team,
Mm-hmm.
and they needed someone small enough. The coxes are usually quite small so that we can fit into the seat, but it
Mm-hmm.
was very fun being able to kind of command a team of 8 boys who were kind of all 2 heads taller than me. And yeah, so I did
I think that
enjoy
would be
that. I did
fun.
and I didn't actually have to do any of the heavy work. I was just sitting there giving them orders while they were pretty much sweating it out.
That is so cool. I always love watching rowing. That
It
is so
is.
cool that you got to be the cox for that, though.
Yeah, it was very fun.
I can see that why that's a good memory. So now question 2, what is your favorite go-to comfort food?
My comfort food is edamame, so that's the Japanese soybeans. I eat that every other day as a snack. It's a
Hmm.
very bad addiction, but
I don't know.
I
It's awful good though.
they're very good and they're very easy to make, and
Hmm.
it's a healthy snack. So that's what I tell myself.
I
And I
actually have
always
2
have,
bags of those in my freezer right now.
oh, really?
I love
I have two
edamame.
bags as well. I always have 2 bags in my freezer.
Like just steam them with a little bit of salt.
Yes,
Oh,
and they just taste so good.
yeah. I
Mhm.
I can definitely get that one. That is so good. And luckily, my husband, it's not his favorite food, so they're all for me.
Oh, that's great. That's the best. You can have it all for yourself.
So now, question 3. If you could have any animal as a pet, what would you want?
Any animal as a pet, I would go for a llama.
Oh, yeah, they're cute. They spit though.
They do spit, but they're really cute. So I last holiday when I went to Korea,
Mhm.
and then I went to visit this llama farm that they had where they let you feed the llamas, and
Oh.
they were so adorable and they were so fluffy.
Mhm.
It was really fun.
It's always so cute whenever they've been shaved and they just have like that poof on top of their head. It is so
They,
cute.
yes, they are. They are really cute. And I'm just staring at my stuffed llama right now that I brought back from Korea from that farm.
That is
And
cool.
if only I could have a real one, but unfortunately I live in a city, so it's really not happening.
So mine's always, for some reason, I think fruit bats are really, really cute. I
They
love fruit
are,
bats.
they are quite cute, but they can get quite big.
Yeah, I know. It's like, in a perfect world, they would be little small pocket-sized things that could live in your house, but whatever.
Yes, if only they could always stay that small, then that would be very adorable.
Seems like for you, it's like if they had miniature llamas that could be in an apartment.
I know. It's like those like those small pigs that they have.
Oh, yeah.
Those micro pigs. They actually made tiny pigs that you can keep as pets. I thought that was very cute. Mm.
So now, question 4. When you are looking for inspiration for an idea for your next project, what do you do to inspire yourself?
I watch a lot of TV and I listen to a lot of music, I would say. I do watch a lot more TV than I think I should, so that is what I do to decompress.
Hmm.
I love TV dramas, and when I'm uninspired, that's what I go to. I consume other forms of media, and I like to listen to music as well and try to look for new music to listen to because sometimes it gives me the correct mood or a particular lyric just hits and that can spin off into a whole new story idea or plot idea sometimes.
It's really amazing how many authors connect their stories with music. It's such a great inspiration for so many people.
Yeah, I do think that music can be very inspirational and it's just something that we're exposed to so much. Like
Yeah.
you can just listen to music. I mean, lots of people will just listen to music on the commute or like while they're doing their exercises. So it's just there all the time. Even when you
Hmm.
go to a mall and then you like hear a song in the background playing in a shop, and it just gives you lots of ideas.
Oh yeah. So now, what is your favorite genre of music?
My favorite genre of music seems to have died out. So I really like ballads,
Hmm.
and that was a whole thing in like the 90s and maybe the early 2000s, but they seem to have kind of, well, they're not on trend anymore nowadays. So I'm still listening to like all those 20-year-old songs that I used to when I was a kid. Yeah, so I really like romantic music,
Hmm.
uh, something that's softer. So that is still my favorite.
So, well, don't feel too bad. We still listen to 80s music here in the house. My husband and I are both Gen Xers, so we listen to a lot of 80s pop.
Yeah, I like 80s pop. I like music from that era. I think that there's a lot more melody to
Hmm.
it and a lot more story to a lot of the songs. So yeah,
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of that generation of music as well.
Yeah, especially if you listen to people like Bruce Springsteen. There's a lot of storytelling going on.
Yeah, there really used to be a lot more storytelling in music, I feel,
Yeah.
compared to like modern day music.
So now, question 5. Who is your favorite author to read?
Oh, do I have to pick one? That's so difficult. My favorite author to read is Jasper Ford, I would say. Not sure if you've heard of his books, but
No.
he is a British author and he wrote the Thursday Next series, which is my all-time favorite fantasy series. It's about this middle-aged woman who is a literary detective and that she can actually dive into books and solve mysteries that are happening in books with like criminals trying to mess up books. So that series has stuck with me for a really long time. There are like 5 or 6 books in it. And that series also features Pickwick the Dodo, which is actually the Hot Escape Books logo, if you've noticed. Yeah, so Jasper Ford is my favorite author. I read all of his books. I think that they are very creative, some of the most creative worlds that I've seen. Thursday Next is one of them. He's also written a nursery crime series where your main characters are solving mysteries in a nursery rhyme world with your favorite nursery rhyme characters like Humpty Dumpty. And that's all very fun. And he's also written a book called Shades of Grey, which is different from 50 Shades of Grey. So Shades of Grey, with Jasper Ford, is set in a world where every person is defined by what color they can see. So these are just really creative worlds. So I do hope that one day I can be that sort of writer that comes up with new fascinating worlds that readers will read about and think like, wow, how did this author manage to dream of something like that? Because that is just so wild.
You have just added to my to be read list because that sounds so good. I have to go check him out tonight.
Yes, I would highly recommend that. I love all his books.
I love like fantasy mystery kind of things. That's so up my alley.
Yeah.
So let's remind everybody who you are and the book we have been talking about.
So I'm Emma Chen. I'm from Singapore. I'm a Singaporean Chinese author, and my debut novel is Of Jade and Dragons. It's a silk punk fantasy, so that's similar to steampunk. It has key themes like rebellion, struggle for freedom, but it's unique in that silk punk draws its inspiration from the history and culture of East Asia and the Pacific Islands. So that is a different kind of literary aesthetic to the book. And Of Jade and Dragons is I would say it's a fantasy adventure type of story about a girl who is trying to seek justice for her father's murder while at the same time trying to achieve her dream of becoming a world-class engineer. And if you enjoy my work, you can find me on Instagram or TikTok at AmberWrites88, where I talk about my books as well as all the latest dramas that I'm watching.
And of course, all of your information will be in the description of today's podcast and on our website, burkhartbooks.com, so everybody can easily find you and your work. Just click and go and buy your book.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's very helpful.
Now, is there any chance of a sequel to this coming out?
Yes, there is a sequel actually. So this has been planned as a 2-book duology, and the sequel is on its way. It should be out next year. Let's say summer next year. We don't have a specific date yet, but I'll let everyone know once we do.
And if you contact us, we'll be sure to make sure that the updated information for the sequel gets in Book Banter magazine.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for doing this. This has been so much fun, and I can't believe that you're up so late at night to do this interview, being in Singapore.
Anytime. Thank you for inviting me. It was really fun.
So there you have it, folks. My interview with the incredible Amber Chen. One of the great things is I can actually tell you right now, the second book in the Of Jade and Dragons duology is The Blood Phoenix, and it is available for pre-order right now on Amazon. It is going to be released June 17th, 2025. So that gives you plenty of time to go buy Of Jade and Dragons, read that one, and get ready for the release of The Blood Phoenix. If you are a fan of epic fantasy like Lord of the Rings, this is a duology that you are going to love. Go check it out. Fall into this world. It is so well crafted. You're going to love it. Now, since we have finished today's episode, I am just absolutely shocked that we only have 2 episodes left this season. Next Wednesday on December 4th, we have the cheese biscuit queen herself, Mary Martha Green, and we're going to be talking to her about her cookbook, The Cheese Biscuit Queen Tells All. Part memoir, part cookbook, and 100% Southern goodness. The recipes in this thing are just amazing, and she shares a recipe in this current issue of Book Banter magazine. It is her champagne mustard, and she uses it in so many different ways, and it's a great thing that you can bottle up and give as a gift this holiday season. And of course, our season finale is coming up on December 11th with the New York Times best-selling author, Tosca Lee. She is absolutely a wonderful person and has some fabulous books out. She not only has bestsellers as a solo author, but also as a co-author with other best-selling authors. You're going to want to listen to this interview and check out her entire catalog of books because they are absolutely fantastic. If you like books that have a good, solid story, plus wholesome themes that are interesting and intriguing with well-developed characters, well, it explains why she's a New York Times bestselling author, because she has it all. I can't believe this season is almost finished. We have got more fantastic authors coming. And I can tell you, we just opened our interview applications for season 4, which begins in February. But we have to do a little bit of a jump start and do interviews through December because we have to be able to do our magazine in January. And I can tell you, the interview applications are already pouring in. I think I could just stop now and completely fill out all of next season, but I want to give more authors the opportunity and see what kind of new work we can bring to all of you. So if you are an author and you want to get your work out there in front of our audience, check out our website at burkhartbooks.com and apply to be on Book Banter with Dianne Burkhart, the Book Talk podcast. And of course, every author on the podcast also gets mentioned in Book Banter magazine. So now, before I let you go, do me a favor, go to burkhartbooks.com, go to our magazine page for Book Banter magazine, and you will find a link to that in the description of today's podcast. So it's very easy for you just to click and go to our magazine page and buy a copy of our December-January holiday book buying guide special issue for just $2.99. When you do that, you help me keep doing all of this. And you get a ton of great information, especially in this issue, which tells you about every author we spoke to through the entire season. And if you look on our website, you can actually get for free the book buying guide that we did last year on that same website. And that one covers all of the authors that we spoke to in our first and second season of Book Banter with Dianne Burkhart, the Book Talk podcast. So we have got plenty of great things for you to check out. If you go look at our magazine site, the first 5 magazines are available to read completely for free, because I was trying to figure out how to do all of this and I wasn't going to make people pay while I figured it all out. So the first 5 magazines you can read online in their entirety for free. And all of the rest of the magazines are available for only $2.99. And with those, you get to download and keep your own copy of Book Banter magazine. And of course, keep watching our social media, because I do plan on getting the rest of the magazines available to purchase as print versions, which are available on Amazon under Dianne Burkhart, or search for Book Banter magazine. You'll find it either way. And remember, every purchase you make of these magazines helps us keep creating them. Now I think it's time for me to go. I've got some baking to do to get ready for Thanksgiving tomorrow. Even though we're living in Germany, we still celebrate the American holidays over here, just not as big. So we're still doing a very small turkey dinner and plan to do what we usually do, put up the Christmas tree. It would be great if you would comment and let us know what you do for the holidays. What holiday do you celebrate, and what kind of family traditions do you carry on no matter where you are? And until next time, it's time for you all to go forth, and I hope you are not only happy, but you have wonderful things to be thankful for.